When my family moved across the country, we sold almost everything to make it happen. Relocating from the wine country of Southern California to the upstate of South Carolina meant rebuilding our home, one thrift store find at a time. I'm a writer, speaker, published author, and now the owner of Carolina & Country, selling uniquely designed and thoughtfully handcrafted goods to customers coast to coast. Hi friends, I'm your host, Christine Chappell, and I'd like to invite you into the Carolina & Country workshop, where the trial and error of upcycled design takes place. Watch the process from start to finish, from thrift store find to home decor treasure and all the messiness in between. I am no expert. I'm just a married mother of 3 trying to live that upcycled life. I am here in Habitat for Humanity Restore of Greenville County, their Taylor's location, and we are going to stroll the aisles and look for our next project piece. This is my first time here actually shopping in this store, and I can't wait to see the different selection of items that they have available and just try to put my imagination to work and think of new ways to use some of these old things. So basically, I'm looking for projects and chasing kids down the aisles because, you know, mom life. Here's 2 tickets to the gun show. You're welcome. I love this row of chairs. You know, I've never done a chair project. Let's be sure to get one that doesn't wobble too much. Okay, we need the sit-down test, just to make sure. Well, it holds me. That'll do. The Restore was a wonderful place to find all kinds of projects. Now it's time to go home and get started on breaking down an antique sewing table. My husband helps me remove the sewing machine from the unit. This thing is heavy. It's always more fun when the family pitches in to help me with these projects. My husband even agreed to do some of the light sanding for me. That's a task that pairs wonderfully with watching golf. Hey, we can totally remove this wooden insert and reattach the top of the table without much fuss. All it takes is a screwdriver to redesign this sewing table into a simple console. We are to the point with the sewing table that I am ready to start painting, and so I'm trying to remember my training with the team at Designer and You in terms of using the texture Toscana and some paint and doing some layers for the paint on the sewing table. Now, I'm not exactly confident, and like I've said before, I am not a professional. But I'm hoping that if I can remember the training well, then maybe putting all of these techniques together will actually turn out really nice. Now, the other project I'm going to be working on today is an old wood chair that I picked up from our friends at Habitat for Humanity. Now, I have never upcycled a sewing table or a wood chair before, so these are firsts for me. I'm really praying that the trial and error process of upcycled design does not trip me up during these projects. I'm hoping that everything goes smoothly and uneventfully to produce really neat finished products. But before we get to work, the family and I set off to a service day with some friends from our church. We are at Serenity Farms in Easley this morning, laying down some irrigation lines and doing some community work with our church. And so we're ready to get our hands dirty and start prepping these beds for vegetable plantings in just a few weeks. These little guys can really put up a fight when trying to get them into the plastic hoses. But it's really neat to see how much work is involved in preparing the plot for crops. We've got a long way to go, but with teamwork it's not so bad. Cue the gun show for the heavy lifting. Farming really is a great family activity. Dirt, animals, bricks. What's not to like? After we put in some good effort at the farm, it's back to the workshop to start painting the sewing table. I use my trusty overlay tool from our sponsor, Designer and You. I start by building a base of gray paint, which will act as my first layer. I'm hoping once I get to the distressing phase, some of this gray paint will pop through. You can see how it already begins to create a chippy appearance, simply with technique instead of sanding. It's so easy. I've been eyeing this blue for some time, and I think this is the perfect project to let it shine. I've only got a small amount, but I think it will be enough to really contribute a pop of color to this table. I continue to use the overlay tool to create layers. Next comes some texture Toscana. Now I'm really getting adventurous. I take my off-white paint and mix it with the texture Toscana powder until it's the consistency I'm looking for. I apply a solid coat over the entire table and let it dry. It's so much white right now, I can't wait to see how the distressing comes along. I start off with a fine grit sandpaper and lightly begin to wear the paint off in some areas, being careful to try and remove the white while still keeping the underlying colors as much as possible. Bit by bit, the layers and the dark wood are revealed, and I'm loving how it's all working together. I didn't get as much of the blue as I wanted through the layering, so I grabbed my overlay tool once more and added some blue highlights on the top of the texture. Between farming, projects, and parenting, I am running low on fuel to push through the to-do list. Let's check in with author Sara Wallace for a jolt of encouragement in this episode's Upcycled Minute.
When my husband and I first started having kids, we had no idea what we were in for. We had 5 boys in 7 years. This whirlwind intro into parenthood forced me to stare my weaknesses in the face. My conclusion? I wasn't strong enough for this. I thought, Lord, how can I do this? Motherhood is too hard. I don't have what it takes. And I was right. But that's where the gospel comes in. The gospel says that when God looks at me, he sees his son. Isaiah 61:10 says, he has clothed me in garments of salvation. He has wrapped me in robes of righteousness. Think about those righteous robes today when your ears are ringing with the chaos and when you're on the verge of another mommy meltdown. This upcycled life isn't about who we are or what we can or can't do well. It's about Christ and what he has accomplished on our behalf. That's where our strength comes from. When we take our eyes off of ourselves and look to Christ's perfect righteousness, we have the fuel we need to accomplish every task that God sets in front of us day by day. And when we soak our minds in this grace, we can pass that grace on to our kids.
When we look to Christ, we have the fuel we need to accomplish every task God sets before us. That is what I needed to hear. What don't I struggle with? Finding more projects at Restore. Back at home, this chair and I get ready to tango. Yes, I've used this tool to open paint cans. Who hasn't? I'm taking the seat off and I couldn't be more happy about it. Whoa, I can tell this thing has been recovered more than once before. Yuck! Well, there he is, all naked. Handsome, but ready for some new garb, don't you think? I'm choosing a color I have nowhere inside my house. This is totally outside the box for me, but our sponsor, Designer and You, always encourages me to try new colors to keep things interesting. Something so bright has me thinking that I don't want to just reupholster this chair. I want to transform this into a plant stand for my barren front porch. So I grab a matching fabric sample, remove the old fabric and padding, and simply wrap the board for a quick transformation. You know, it's been really crazy around here lately, but through it all, we've been able to work together as a family. We're all a work in progress, wondering what we will become. One of the fun things about the upcycling process is the freedom to improvise. Usually the idea that I start out with is not the one that I finish with when all is said and done. I confess this episode was a bear to get through, especially because it seemed our schedules just collided into one big mess within a 2-week time period, and it simply left us exhausted. I'm thankful for the help that I received from my family and also for the encouragement that I got from Sara's Upcycled Minute. There were so many times during production that I was simply overwhelmed with the amount of tasks that had been laid before me. But God meets us in those messes, not only to bring us promises of hope and renewal, but also to bring us people who will help shoulder the burden. Community, the Holy Spirit, and the Scriptures are the glue that hold us together when we feel like we're falling apart. I want to thank the Habitat for Humanity Restores of Greenville County in South Carolina for supporting the show and for all of the wonderful work they do in our local communities. And thank you to the amazing team at Designer and You. They continue to encourage, equip, and inspire me to become a more creative upcycler. Be sure to check the show notes for links to all the products that we used in today's episode. Are you having a no good, very bad day? Sign up to receive our emails and you will receive a free printable 5 steps to rehab your day. It will come straight to your inbox, but not only that, you'll also get access to our 6 free phone lock screens designed around the 6 keys to living that upcycled life. Did you like this episode? If so, give us a thumbs up, comment below, tell us what your favorite part was, and don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube so you don't miss an Upcycled Minute. And stay tuned for next week's episode of TUL Uncut with Bobbie Schae. She'll be interviewing guest Sara Wallace, talking all about her new book, For the Love of Discipline. The title is being released by P&R Publishing at the end of April. You can check our website, thatupcycledlife.com, to get information about her book. The goal with the chair is going to be to There were so many times during production that I was just simply, I want to thank the Habitat for Humanity Restores of Greenville, South Carolina the goal with the chair is going to be but God meets us in those messes, not only to bring us His promises of hope. Are you having a no good, very bad day?